live from the Marsh Theater in San Francisco. It's the Will and Willie Show. I'm Paul Wells.
I'm Willie Bush.
And Heather Knight, City Insider, columnist for the San Francisco Chronicle. Okay, let me take just a moment, a little housekeeping here. Not housekeeper, but housekeeping. Artistic director Stephanie Weisman created the Marsh in 1989 as a breeding ground for solo performances, and since its inception, let's give them a hand. The Marsh has dramatically expanded, and they now have a theater in Berkeley where they have a liquor license, in San Francisco, and they put on over 400 performances a year, of which we've done 5 now. So this being our final.
And Will has done more than that, though, this year.
I've done a couple more. And speaking of Stephanie Weitzman,
the first question.
I have a question. Is it on?
It sounds like it stepped into the light. There
First
we
of
go.
all, I want to just say we'll do 605 performances in 2016.
Wow.
And my question is, in a non-political, non-profit way, what do we think of Vote Yes on S for the arts proposition?
we are hugely in favor. Tremendously in favor. Incredible. Vote S would, of course, the hotel tax, the grants to the arts, and then they took all the money from grants for the arts and just put it in the general fund. And now this would make sure that it was earmarked solely for homeless programs and the arts. So vote yes on S. That one's easy to remember.
Yeah. And then there's X, if I'm going to pick one, which also X will, particularly in this neighborhood, preserve art spaces by making it part of the planning of renting space or building a new one, that you have to have an equivalent artistic space if you're going to evict or move an artistic space.
Well, the city, for years, been trying to figure out how to make sure that at all times we afford some respect to things that people seem to enjoy. And with the way in which for-profit operations are going, many things that we would like to enjoy are being priced out of their space and their place. And it's designed to try to equalize that. But I'm also amazed at how many places for profit are being priced out as well. Walk around for years and years and years, Shreves and Company was one of the cornerstones.
I bought an engagement ring there.
You ought to take it back.
I got it thrown back at me as a wedding ring. That's beside me. Got mailed.
But on the corner of Post and Grant, she'd been there for years. Well, whoever owned the building decided to
Raise the rent.
No, more than raise the rent. They raised the rent as if somebody from Dubai was going to pay it. And the results have been, the second year, that place is dark. The people who, Shreves and Company, moved down the streets in a nothing space, and they have no longer a real presence.
It's called the Shreve Building.
You mean the one that they left?
Yeah, it's called the Shreve Building. So
well, they claim.
The guy priced the Shreve Jewelers, one of the best jewelers in the country. Harry Winston, and
they said Harry Winston, but Harry Winston was never coming in there, apparently, because it's now 2 years.
Yeah.
And there are multiple examples of that. Some of those people are telling me that they're paying as much as $100,000 a month rent for space. How could you pay that kind of rent?
$1.2 million a year.
Yeah, that's absolutely. So clearly we need to, in this town, try to figure out how to make it
we need
really
another
difficult.
Bust is what we need. Or an earthquake. We got to shake things up. Remember the earthquake? And everybody ran, I can't live
Willie was
there.
going to say something serious there and good, and you cut him off.
No, I'm not. No, but he's right about, you realize that you could have, they were giving away property damn near down in the marina.
Yeah.
Everybody, nobody wanted to live there anymore. You didn't have to worry about, getting a phony buyer to let me in there. They were inviting me in. and because it was liquefaction,
Right,
was a problem
liquefaction, yeah.
existed down there, and
It's all
people,
landfill.
and people bought. Now you can buy. There's a place in Italy where you can buy.
Well, then there's also the Millennial Tower where you can get a condo at a discount now.
That's
The
amazing.
Leaning Tower?
That's only for cockeyed optimists, though.
It's the Leaning Tower of San Francisco. The sinking and leaning tower. Well, I live on Potrero Hill. I've been there for decades, before '89, and all we had was a few things like fell off a shelf in the '89 earthquake in Lower Prieta, because it's a solid rock and it goes a mile underground. And people didn't know that. It was a forgotten part of the city. It was like where O.J. Simpson grew up in a project, and people forgot about Potrero Hill. Now someone just knocked on somebody's door with a view of downtown on the north slope, and you can look it up, paid $9.5 million on Potrero Hill.
So I take
For
it,
not
Paul,
for very
I take
much.
it you don't have to work anymore, huh?
Why am I here? I do the Will and Willie show because I like radio and I like people. But I like Will and Willie, and we started doing this 10 years ago, and here we are doing the final show before the election in 2016. And we started in 2006, and the Democrats swept the House
Right.
and the Senate.
Nancy Pelosi.
And we were taken
became
off the air
speaker.
6 weeks before as the morning show,
Yeah.
the actual election, but it didn't change the outcome.
We had so much fun on those shows. 3 hours a day.
You have the best Rolodex in the world. Man, Paul would just,
Questions?
Willie would give, I want to get
Questions?
this guy on the air.
Come to the aisle, please.
And then give it to,
Be
Step
careful.
into the light.
Willie would hand him the phone number.
We did it at the Hotel Vitale, which at the time was owned by Chip Connelly before he got in the Airbnb business.
The restaurant was on,
Yeah, the restaurant was owned.
not the hotel. The hotel.
Well, we had the Phoenix Hotel,
Yeah.
that was his first.
Yeah.
And it was a great place to do a show live, and we would be in this lounge, and me and producer Tony Ryan would have to assemble the table that we broadcast from at like 6 o'clock in the morning, rolling it out, and then I had a back operation.
Didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's
We
why
have
that claim.
just overextended putting that tabletop so we could
Yes.
sit in the round. Your name and your question.
I'm Bill Keller. I have a question about
Step into the light. I like saying that.
November 9th and into January, and I don't understand how legislatures work. I wish we had somebody that could explain that to us. The Republicans hold the House. How do they go about choosing a speaker? The Trump people hate the Ryan people. The Ryan people hate the Trump people. The party's divided. How do you choose a Speaker of the House in that situation?
Well,
Mr. Speaker.
I was there. I would create a situation where the Democrats would decide which of the Republicans would get the speakership. I'd keep them, and they'd have a speaker every other month. The way in which we would keep doing it. We'd be available.
Next.
Yeah, we would never be committed to anybody. Period. We just let the votes happen, and lo and behold, you get all the Democratic votes and the few Republicans. And we just keep moving the speakership. And I'd start with dumping Ryan, and then I'd dump Ryan's successor. Then I'd dump the successor after Ryan. That never would be a speaker as long as the Republicans were in charge.
It'd be better than not having a Supreme Court justice. Next question.
Hello, my name is Tara Hausman, and this question is for the alcalde, Mr. Brown. How does it feel that so much legislation ends up being aimed at you? When you were Speaker of the Assembly, term limits aimed dead at you. There has been various legislation through the years locally pretty much aimed at you, DHL and M. Let's face it, you, Newsom, Lee. How does it feel to have that kind of power? As somebody wants to handcuff you.
Well, let me tell you, I'm flattered that
Nothing scares him.
the rules as they exist that were utilized by me and my operation full-time, in order for people to stop that, they had to try to change the rules. The first time you saw that demonstrated in this country, I think, was when Wilt Chamberlain was playing basketball. They raised the goal because he was so good. Yeah, they raised the basket, and then they widened the space that leads up to the basket, all because they were trying to neutralize his skill and ability. And I think that that's what they did. They changed the operation, and the only bad thing they really did was term limits. That's just terrible. That was some of those people that shouldn't be allowed one term.
I can see pluses and minuses. I think like we were speaking about earlier, the Prop H public advocate idea definitely comes out of term limits because the supervisor who backed it the most is termed out, and everyone said he was looking for a job for himself. It was funny because he was writing all these details that the public advocate would have to meet, and we were joking like, and is he going to have your initials and come from Bernal Heights as well?
RC? Yeah, it's like when they tiger-proofed Augusta National, you know.
Yeah, they changed the rules there.
Yeah.
And believe me, I left the speakership to become mayor because obviously I was termed out of the legislature, and I became the mayor of the city. And I was speaker from 1980 to 1995. After they put in term limits, they had more speakers than the total number of years that I served as a single speaker.
Wow.
They had 15 speakers in that limited period of time since I left the speakership, and they still don't have it right. You know, you have no idea. The speaker's job was a very powerful job, very powerful. Governors, I had only 2 years of a Democratic governor. I had Jerry Brown for 2 years while I served as speaker from 80 to 82. All of the other years that I was there in the capacity of a speaker,
right,
it was Duke Majan and Pete Wilson. And so it really allowed me the opportunity on behalf of the better people of the state of California to represent the better people of the state of California, even though I was just the speaker. So that power was built in there, and they couldn't stop me, and so the only way they could do anything about it was to say, okay, we're going to abolish anybody who served more than 6 years in the halls of the legislature, and that's what they did.
You'd still be there.
You'd still be there. Well,
I'd still be
FDR
They
died
was-
in office. He was elected 4 times, and then they changed the law. And then when Ronald Reagan was termed out, the Republicans went, ooh, what do we do?
And let me tell you, Reagan wrote a letter to me. He was so adamant against term limits. He wrote a letter to me during the time that term limits was being considered in California. And in his letter, and I still have the copy of the letter, in the letter it says, to the voters, be advised that if they didn't have term limits, I would still be president. That was Reagan's announcement. And I remember when somebody asked me before they had term limits, when do you think when do you think you'll be replaced? I said, I would think that my replacement will probably be conceived within the next 5 years.
Next question, say who you are.
My name is Sally Connell, and I was just wondering, I guess this could be for all three of you, but particularly you two. Don't you think that when Hillary is elected and when she begins, that the investigations into her, the marathon investigation by which Republicans rule now, is just going to start from that second?
Well, Lee Housekeeper actually proposed, his prognostication is this: November 8th, Hillary is elected. November 9th, the Republicans start impeachment proceedings.
Yeah. And I have a question, I'm just going to follow up one specifically for you about term limits. I was a newspaper reporter for decades in Bakersfield and Eureka, and the thing I noticed After term limits.
Not quite a lateral move.
No, Eureka to Bakersfield, but the thing I noticed as soon as term limits went into effect, that it totally strengthened the state bureaucracy, because there was no longer these old, salty assemblymen and assemblywomen who understood the departments they oversaw.
Right, so the bureaucrats went
bureaucracy,
wild.
the bureaucrats kind of,
Like an
I'm not saying
FBI
they went
head.
wild in some kind of an anti-government way, but they just, they knew so much more than any legislator from that moment on.
And they are still doing exactly that, and they have zero oversight.
Yeah.
You don't know who they are, and you
Yeah.
don't know what they're doing. San Francisco has some of that. You have these rules and regulations, and many times, they just don't make a decision. You just keep going back and back and back, and they keep telling you you didn't finish the application. And now that you've finished the application, it's got to be looked at by multiple people. And by the time you get to the end of the rainbow, they show up at the wake to say,
Wait a minute, I want to know more about Bakersfield to Eureka. I want to find out about that.
You know that when I went from Eureka to Bakersfield, I was so pleased because at that point there was lots of rain in Eureka, and it's going to be warm in Bakersfield, and it was at that point a union newspaper. So those two things.
Oh, Union newspaper, imagine
Made
that.
it a perfect move for me.
Kern County.
Kern County.
Yeah.
A little dry in Kern County. Question, can I mention this since you mentioned it in your column?
Election Day
Yes.
luncheon.
Okay, so we're just about at the end of our program. Next
Are you going to be there?
Next Tuesday at noon.
11:30 to 2 p.m.
Is it 11:30? Is that what I said?
I got the
Okay.
card here from Lee Housekeeper,
All right.
so must have been
11:30 to
Election
2
Day
p.m.
luncheon.
Yeah.
Complimentary lunch and wine at Historic John's Grill, courtesy of John Constant, wonderful guy, and Willie L. Brown Jr., the Honorable Willie L. Brown Jr. is the host, and you're all invited.
And believe me, it's a fun lunch because, it's not like a real lunch. You just kind of show up at 11:30 and you can wander about, and whatever food is being served that John has paid for, you're entitled to consume it, but you'll see all kinds of crazy people there. People who are seeking public office, people who have a shot at winning. You'll see a lot of the losers. You'll see the people who write about them. You'll see the people who blog about them. You'll see people who have ambition to run for public office. You'll see Tom Steyer. You'll see a lot of folks.
Well, I think that we've come to the end of our hour already. Heather Knight, give her a big hand for being our guest
Thank you so
today
much.
for City Insider. The Will and Willie Show,
10:62,
starring
pleasure.
Will Durst and Willie Brown, is a Flow Communications production. Special thanks to the Marsh Theater, our AV crew, Ace and you of RealityCheckTV.com, and especially our executive producer, William O'Keefe, and to Tiger Lynn with one N, and TigerLynn.com for her music, from the CD Soulfire, and you can get us on the internet at willandwillie.com.